We can start.
And sound. Okay.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
Welcome to our game creation talks, and meet Alice. Alice or Lisa.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
And Tom. Alice and Tom. And I'm Yaroslav. Nice to meet you all. And thank you for agreeing to be our interrogation victim here. And we're not joking here in European Community University when we're talking about interrogations. A lot of people know how it is. So, how it would work, we have here two of us. We represent two different generations of game developers. And we had so many questions to you that we decided that the only justice we can get is from the die about who will answer questions. So for every question we will roll initiative and like which generation will get to ask. Yeah? Okay, so let's do it.
Maybe on your pad or.
Yes. Okay. 5.
Not great.
On the moon. That's actually really cool. Can you say it like
I have 9.
Wow.
9? Okay.
9.
Okay.
Was
Alice goes first. Okay.
All right.
So, first of all, we are really delighted to see you here, to have you here. And I was thinking that you've probably already answered all the possible questions about Doom from, 30 years?
Yeah. So I guess we're done. No.
But I wanted to ask something more fun. What I was thinking and what I personally knew about Doom is that there is a running joke on the internet that if it has a screen, if it has a computer, it can run Doom. Right. So what do you think about this internet phenomena? How do you find this? Is it funny for you? Is it something out of one of the legendary aspects of the game?
Oh yeah, it's just, well, I mean, back in when we were making it, we had a sort of a philosophy, which we call like a Berkeley-like philosophy, that information should be free and like everything is moddable, and and that people have like taken the old code and are running it on crazy things like copiers, and somebody did made a sort of screen that shows Doom out of cells, which is like, and it has like every couple of weeks there's a new frame or something like that, but it's insane. That's probably my favorite one. It was just how much creativity is brought to sort of that one question is amazing, and really in the spirit of what we made back in the day. So yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Oh no, or do you get one? Oh, it's not just initiative, it's like who gets to go at all.
Yes, at all. There might happen that I will not ask a single question.
So you're rolling to hit, basically.
Yeah, I'm rolling, yeah. And it looks like she's...
17.
17, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, should even roll it.
Yeah, well,
pretty high.
You never know.
You never know. Roll it.
All right.
Everyone's waiting.
The justice demands
All right, if you insist. And that's a 5.
Okay, good. Wonderful. Okay, Tom, one question. We maybe touched a little bit about it before. What do you think is the most important thing, because for newer generation, to learn about games, which they do not get to learn? For example, a lot of people now think that like video games, you just have to start with video games. They forget tabletop games, for example, some others. What would you advise to newer generation to look back to, like, to also revive and also use while learning to make games, to work games?
Well, I mean, to me, games are just another creative media where we as humans kind of like explore what it's like to be human, what it's like to communicate, what it's like to interact with each other, and so on. So like all media are really interesting if you're going to become a game designer, to study and learn from and have in your brain. As far as like people learning, like you should, I mean, as kids, we make games all the time. They really have really bad rules, like you can't go over to the side of the ditch. I'm going to stop you from getting to this ditch or something. And they're like, okay, that's a game now, so we're all game makers in a sense. And I think people should like learn to think about critically about everything they're kind of digesting. So like you see a movie, it's just like, I wonder why they had to do that. And those kind of thoughts lead to the kind of decisions that you would make in a game. There's a book, Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, which talks about those kinds of critical decisions. Like this could be a really beautifully drawn graphic novel, or it could be simple and cartoony, and that's a huge choice, and it's a big vector in what you're going to make. So like learning just sort of the act of creation, not just I can program or I can do art, will inform a lot of the things, and you'll be a lot richer creator for it, I think.
Yeah, and significance of old games?
Oh yeah, I mean it's know your history. Like if you're a cinephile, you're going to study everything from silent movie era all the way up to today. You know, like you should know the latest Scorsese film, but you should also know like Man with a Movie Camera or something. Like you should know like how we got here, and like at least know how computers work if you're going to program, and you should know like Pong and Pac-Man and Galaga, actually physically play them, so you can learn like what really simple rules turn into really magical experiences. Because like a lot of games now, there's a lot of flash and circumstance, it looks like cinematic, it's a movie-like experience, but at the core, when it can't hide, that's the part that's really fun and not just spectacle. So looking at the old games is when there wasn't that big parade around it. There's just this simple little thing where this little like creature walks around a maze and eats dots, and like if that's fun, the whole thing is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of old games and new games, do you think that most of the modern games lack some soul and maybe some creativity compared to the old ones?
Well,
do you have this feeling?
Yeah, because like back in the day, like you just kind of had an idea for something. And it was like, it would be funny if a penguin pushed ice blocks or something, and you just tried it, and sometimes they sucked and sometimes they were great. But now everything's, especially with such big bet games, like if you're spending like $200 million on a game, it has to be a hit and has to sell X copies. So that means it has to have this much production value. It's got to be reliably, predictably enjoyed by people. So you can't really do something crazy, right? Yeah. And just so you're not, with a big game like that, you're not going to get a minute, or you're not going to get a short hike, or you're not going to get Super Hexagon or something. You're going to get, War Game number 10, or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's very important just to like be able to have that kind of creative freedom. And if you can't have that, then you're just going to get like, +1 instead of like, oh, this is, a completely different kind of game.
Or mobile games, like games to earn money, and people get into game industry to earn money, not to make games.
Yeah, there's sort of like that constant thing of the war of art and money. It's just like, yes, you're paying me for this, so like you get the painting. Oh, it was so crazy that the woman's strap of her dress fell off and it's scandalous, so I had to repaint it so it wasn't. And it's just like, and that's like, I just painted what I saw, and now I have to change it because of like rules or something, or money, or something like that. So that always ends up being a compromise, So it's nice to see when people just make something just out of personal passion and creativity, like just play Terry Kavanagh's game Egg, which is just like you're on a mountain and you're a jumping egg. Okay, like that's not going to be $100 million franchise, but it was really fun to play. So,
well, it made its success, yes.
Yeah,
yeah, and has its following.
Yeah.
So, okay, roll first this time. Maybe you'll get that.
Right.
Be fair.
14.
Whoa, not bad at all.
12. Well, also not bad, but not as good.
Not quite
good enough. Yes.
So while we were on the topic of creative freedom and maybe some courage, I believe the theme, the topic, and the overall appearance of Doom made quite an impression on the public back in the day. Maybe there was some major backlash of the concerned parents, like, Actually, just like with D&D and
Yeah.
other, many other games. And my question is, how do we as creators find this courage to push those boundaries and not be afraid of this public critique? How do we find this inner strength to go and say, I made it and I'm proud of it, and you just have to accept it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a sense, like, I don't think, for the latter part of your statement, I don't think they necessarily need to accept it, but it has to be not banned in a society. It has to be, you are free to say something, even if it's stupid or offensive, and it's not banned, but it's, you know, held up for scrutiny. So, like, yes, that's a bad thought. And if you start banning bad thoughts, then bad thoughts work in the background, and people, you know, hold them, and they're still fomenting and stuff, rather than being like, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to imprison a lot of people and restrict their rights and that kind of thing. So, like, in the sense of games, though, I think, and artistry, I think it's important for art to push boundaries. That's, I mean, it's not every piece of art has to, you know, push all the boundaries and be crazy, but you should be free to, as an artist, to speak what you want to say through art and communicate to other humans through art what it's like to be human. And if that, you know, is edgy, or is like, hey, I just love, you know, hair metal and rock and roll, and all the metal covers were all like, you know, demons and you know, and just like, and you know, we just had a D&D game where like demons flooded over the whole world. So just like, well, that's, you know, that's a topic we're suddenly immersed in. Let's do a game on that. And we watched Evil Dead 2. That's hilarious with that, you know, chainsaw. Like, we should do that. So, I mean, it was whatever, like, people are sharing of their experience in the world is great, and we should be glad that people are willing to go out there, because I was like, it's really hard just to make a thing. Like, if you made something and finished it, you get at least a C+. Like, you're here, or in American terms, I don't know what that is over here, but a passing grade. And then from then on, it's just how well did you communicate and how well did you craft, you know, your message. Yeah.
And Bruce Campbell, did he play your game? Did he talk to you?
I never talked to Bruce Campbell, but I'm a big fan.
Bruce Campbell, please.
So, come on, call me by...
like, I will put you up, Bruce. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Oh. No, but we so loved Evil Dead 2. It's just amazing.
And the 3, I mean, come on, the 3 is a masterpiece as well.
Oh yeah, this is my boomstick. But yeah, anyways, don't get geeks talking about movies, then this interview will be.
Well, maybe you do have some tips on self-censorship. Before we pass our project to the world, we have to self-censor ourselves, like... how do you overcome this?
Well, I mean, there in expression in a society, I'm sure there are like sort of like returns on investment, and you know, like do I want to like just, you know, fight the man and the system and say I don't care if this, you know, doesn't ever get seen. But there are ways to kind of subtly say what you're going to say without, you know, just like blasting it out there. There was a black poet a long time ago when some horrible event happened, and you know, black people were attacked, and he wrote a poem, and it was just, you know, kind of like an eloquent poem. But one of the lines went, write this in strict iamb, like iambic pentameter. And then later there's another line and another line. And if you read the longest lines in the poem, it says, I am damn mad, you know, that this happened, essentially. And there's something he couldn't say in that society, but he was saying it so people could find it, you know. And so there's, you know, levels of what you do and say and stuff like that. And also you could, you know, talk to people that are running the system, if they're reasonable people, and just say, hey, we want to do this, and we think it's a very strong message, you know, can we do this? Like MASH, you know, was on TV, and there was very strict rules against language, but there was one very shocking scene, and Hawkeye, swore on TV, and that was shocking, but they kept it in because it was art. And they talked with the network and say, this is art. And this horrible thing happened, and this is what I would say. And so, like, you can fight for your voice and what needs to be said. And hopefully that people listen.
MASH TV show actually based on a real book of
Korean
military
War.
medic about Korean War,
Yeah.
and it's one of the best comedy TV shows ever. They made based on this book. They made a full motion picture, but it wasn't
Robert
that big.
Altman, yeah.
But then they made a TV show which was it's still one of the most successful comedy shows ever, like 11 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's best. Everyone who has like trauma and something like Belarusians, Ukrainian, anyone, watch MASH. It helps you because about medics in military times finding something to smile about.
Yeah,
That's nice to know.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
for
it's
this
like
commentary.
Yeah, that's really
it's like
cool.
a humorous show, but then it will certainly turn dramatic and like very serious and really deal with the subjects that come out of war and what that means on a human scale and stuff. So it's really moving in that, because like a lot of like buddy cop movies, they'll like make you laugh. So start a Lethal Weapon, haha, funny scene, and then it gets darker and darker and darker. But these people are already your friends, and so now you go on that journey with them willingly, and you feel the emotion that they would feel. So.
And it's very realistic because when you're on a border of survival of the soul, humor really helps you in jails and everywhere. Humor really saves you, and that's what you see there. Actually, the real thing, like the sadness, like the sad thing which is happening, but with humor flavoring it all to help to survive to those who
Yeah, they're
inside.
cheering
That's
themselves
actually
up.
the true thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that applies to games too. Like you need to sort of set the scene for your art or stories or video, you make a movie or something, sort of set the hook emotionally for the people so they're invested in what you're doing. Because if you just like rely on the big movie stars in our movie, okay, we don't have to do any character development, then you're not there and you don't care. Yeah.
Narrative and
Anyways,
it's
again,
a whole,
we could go on.
yes, with a lot of what happens now with narrative and writers who actually go to strike not knowing how to write.
Yeah.
That's true. Without them, some show came out and they were better than with them. Actually,
Yeah.
thanks for strike. Yes. Oh, Roland, next time.
Please do.
Okay. I hope I will not waste all my luck. Was 17. Okay.
17.
It looks like 21.
I know. I love it. How would you roll a 21 on this?
Oh, that's a scale.
That's a 13.
Okay, I got it. Okay, you've been through a lot of educational establishments through what you're looking for. Like you spoke in a lot of places. You've seen a lot of like game dev education.
Yeah.
What, from your perspective, what they could use? What advices would you give to make game dev education better, fun, actually relatable to successful?
Well, probably two things, and they both get at the same thing, is interview the students and make them convince you that they need to be in game development. Because game development is really hard, and it's very much a roller coaster. I mean, I've been in this career 38 years.
Yeah.
And a company that was doing a fantastic game for a very stable publisher just got canned like that. And so it just like, okay, I'm in a new gig and I'm very happy and doing well, but you have to be ready for an industry that can happen. Like movies are the same thing.
Yes.
It's like, we're all together for this project, hope we get along, but we'll probably never see each other again. And it's creative industries are very hard. So like if you're a programmer and you don't have to make games, maybe you are a programmer as a normal job and make games on the side.
Yeah.
But if you have to do it, if it's your passion, then you'll fight to do it. And like, that's what you have to survive the times that are lean and stuff. It's just like, I have to do this, so how can I possibly make this happen? And that goes to like So just doing that interview at the start and making sure that you really want to do it. Because I mean, I love doing it. I make games all day, and I make games. And I was on the plane coming here, and I designed a game which I'm going to program over the holidays. It just like, I have to do this. It's the medium that I just love and know. Because I was when I was a kid, I was doing like short films, and I was doing fiction and poetry, and I'd make, like big domino toppling things, 2,500 dominoes with a little mountain that would go up, and system, and then there was a trapeze. It's like I was making levels for the dominoes essentially. So it's kind of like game designing before. I made marble mazes. It was like I was trying to make something, and get the ideas I needed out. And when we got a computer in 1980, and it was like, here it is. And so I have to do this, but make sure that you've seen games, you're always looking at games, always thinking about how they're made, like, and not just, I'm going to make my own World of Warcraft. That's not what it takes to make a game. You have to like really love dissecting them, doing the boring stuff, because it's 90% boring stuff. And so you have to be ready for that, ready for the vagaries and the roller coaster of the whole industry, but it's what you love, and you have to do it.
Even with design doc, you
I
have
mean,
to write it. It's like
like a coder may ask you to just type some really boring data in Notepad just because we have to get something in the game, and you have to go, that's great, whatever it takes,
Maybe you could give us a little spoiler about your newest project?
The new project, well, I can't really talk about it, but it involves game mechanics, but it's something that I think will be good for people.
Oh.
So.
By the way, talking about companies which closed, there are a lot of Ediware, like David Milix, and Troika Games, 3 historical games, and like just a set. But what do you know about Sierra Games? You have your favorite Sierra game, probably.
Oh, Sierra Games? I mean, the classic Sierra game?
Yeah.
Well, we almost sold...
Point-and-click adventure. It was.
Yeah.
It was like everyone who played games in 90s, especially in 80s, they knew Sierra. It was like the first legendary, I think, and also Quest for Glory was like the groundbreaking. It was what Morrowind become. It's actually like something, a mix of RPG and Quest, and it was like... Yeah,
it's sort of like a little bit like, say, a Psychonauts or something but it was more you had to like choose commands to like,
at first it was
I'm gonna look at this and find a little spider on the web and take it over here.
And later it became like visual point-and-click novels almost. Yeah. So they were huge, and there was like Police Quest, Space Quest, like King's Quest, Quest for Glory. Quest. Yeah. There were a lot of them, and do they exist now still?
Yeah, well, they just, we almost, weirdly, so as co-founder of id Software, we almost sold id to the Williamses, to Sierra, back after we made Wolfenstein, and like, I don't think they got what Wolfenstein was, and they were like, and they kind of balked about, we wanted a little, whatever we wanted, our demands, but they were just very cheap, and so I imagine it's great, but they're great people, and they just released a sort of graphic version of the old Colossal Cave Adventure and stuff. So I like that. I mean, my favorites are ones like are super ancient, probably. Let me see, Mystery Funhouse, I think was or something like that, and then what was that time? There's one, it was so epic, it was like, so this is nothing now, but it was across like 6 or 10 discs back then. So that was like 10 times bigger than any other game.
There were like, some of Quest for Glory and King Quest were also through several discs.
Yeah.
I remember like 5 discs for Quest for Glory, the new edition, I think. And yeah, they just, because they had sound overs.
Yeah.
And they had them like, on because on discs like CD, so it was like this why it took a lot of space also,
Yeah,
which sounds like.
yeah, King's Quest were great and Space Quest and
yes,
all
yes,
that,
they
but
are. They had a lot.
I mean, my time was like very early '80s type of adventure, so it was like really
Robin Hood.
crude games, but they're like, wow, I can do this on a computer, which is amazing. It's like a
It
TV
was.
you can play.
So it's interesting that at that time they were the biggest genre and the company producing the biggest genre, and they refused to buy first-person shooter, who would be the next biggest genre. It was,
Yeah.
It was interesting. Well,
Again,
yeah.
this is knowing your history. I mean, that like if you're making sort of like a action adventure game now, like study where they came from,
yeah.
because like one thing to your question was like people can't do as innovative games if they make bigger games and stuff. Back then, everybody was just making whatever because it was like a new box that made interactive light on your TV, so it was like anything was possible. Like a lot of the early Atari games are just crazy, like Yard's Revenge. Like what is that?
Yes.
It's like, but I mean, it's fun. You can't deny it's not fun.
Goblins and
Yeah.
all and the little things in them. They had their own species, their own humor. It was like all everywhere.
Yeah.
They still have. It was fascinating. So especially for artists now, I believe that like those all early quests, they like the. By the way, they still are big thing. We had Belarus studio One Winged Cicada. They made Tardy, point-and-click pixel art adventure, and it went to the final for the best narrative. It was competing with the Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. In the
wow.
finale, like 4 games, and among them, this 3.5 people team. It was cruel. So please make those games. They're still good. You don't have to do 3D first-person shooter to make a good game. You can do novels and can do quests.
That's true for anything. Like write a cool short story. Do like the Duplass brothers. They were having trouble getting a film made, and they just said, we're just going to make a short film this afternoon. Screw it. And they just made This Is John. And it got in a festival, and it was like audience favorite, and that started their career. So like, just keep making and make things that are scoped down. That's what I always tell students is like, make 10 bad games, learn your craft, smallest scope possible, copy games if you have to. Just make Pac-Man. You'll learn so much making Pac-Man. There was a programmer we had at Ion Storm, and we said, hey, just make Pac-Man. And then he got all the way until like the ghosts have to return to the house. And that's a big problem to solve because they have to be able to navigate all the way back to the center. And yeah, it's essentially AI or big data. And that's when he stopped. It was just like, oh, here's a bit of a problem. It's hard to finish a game. The last 20% is brutal because you have to cut things and you have to do unpleasant things, or you have to bake a bunch of bad data.
The last 80%, like the first 80% and the last 80%.
Yeah, exactly. 160% of games built.
And 90% of the time, the game looks like the.
Yeah, I know. It's just like graphics don't matter. Like come up with something cool. Come up with a minute and do your little indie interesting game, Monument Valley.
Okay, let's. Because we can talk forever with all this old nostalgia.
Oh, natural. Oh.
Well, I already had my go.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much over. Now the camera's gonna fall
Critical
over.
miss. It means I have to break my leg or something. Oh, my ear hurts.
Back to some fan questions. What was the craziest, most bizarre fan interaction you had?
The most bizarre fan interaction. Well, there's 2. The weirdest one I had was I was just in a Home Depot, and
It's a store.
there's 2 of these. Okay,
it's a big store.
it's a Home Depot is like a hardware store where you get wood and nails and stuff like that. And someone just comes up and recognized me. Are you Tom Holland? I was just like, and I was like shocked. And my friend was there, and she had to talk to the person while I was just like, what is going on? And then finally I talked to him. The most awkward one was I was just kind of on a lunch date and with someone that I was like, oh, this could be cool. And then 2 people came over and say, hey, you're Tom Holland, blah, blah. And it was just like, it felt like I had set it up So like, oh, some people know me, I'm on and I felt really awkward, and I was turning all red and kind of talking to him and stuff like that. But yeah, that exploded that whole situation. I didn't, but it was like weird. But the weirdest one was Romero though. So we were speaking at the Cree Development Conference in Russia, and John had bought like those big Russian hat, so he's like this, and then it was freezing cold in January. This is like I'm from Wisconsin, and this was colder. I couldn't believe it. And so he had his coat up to here. So this is how much you can see of John Romero. And we're in Red Square, and he's just like looking around like this, and someone comes over, "Are you John Romero?" And it's like this much information you saw, and like somehow. But there you go. But the thing is weird though, because like game developers are not really famous. They're not going to get, which is great because we're not like chased all over the place and and harassed and stuff like that. We're just people.
Wait a little, yeah. It will come to it.
I don't know. It's too nerdy.
It's already coming to it.
People just sit in a room and type, and then you go do a voice thing with David Duchovny and it's like hi, and then that's weird. Okay, and then you go back in your cave, And, it was like I got to work with Gordon Ramsay, and he's really nice and hardworking. He's not really yelly, but that like there's one really cool day, and got to hang out and direct and act with him, and then just back in your cave, and it's weird.
And that's about fan interaction, but you have a lot of like this already lore, like inspired by in real life. Objects and movements, even communities inspired by Doom and all other games.
Oh.
For example, Ida the Cuda is like a phenomenon.
Yeah. I know that it's just weird. Well, it's weird to see stuff you've made live on so long and be transmuted by others and stuff like that. Like saw a big poster of BJ Blazkowicz, a character I made up for the new game, in a European and like archway or something like. That's weird. It's so weird. Like I was actually had a coworker who, like, there was a character in Commander Keen in one of the levels called a dope fish. It's a big stupid fish that flies around, has big buck teeth and kind of cross eyes and burps, but whatever. But that became sort of the Easter egg of the industry. And then I got a coworker who named himself Dopefish and had a Dopefish tattoo. So it's like, it's not just like, meeting a fan. It's just like an obsessive fan that you're now coworkers with. I was like, hi, Tobias.
A stalker.
Yeah, I know. I know, but he's really cool. Just like he just really loved that character.
So in time, he relaxed next.
Yeah.
Okay. And that there are IDDQD pubs, like boats, cybersports teams.
Yeah.
And people. Which is the weirdest thing IDDQD? How many? You probably people throw at you whatever they see at IDDQD, like, so you would know, like, and be proud of. What's the strangest thing you've seen named IDDQD?
Oh man,
For those who don't know, it's like a cheat code from the Doom, like to get immortality, and it just went viral. It's like life of its own.
Yeah, it's there's so many weird, like, I think not even IDD would be. I think it was like the weirdest thing from that era in a way was that Smashing Pumpkins used the explosion sound from Doom in one of their songs.
Oh.
So it just something lifted, it's another thing lifted from the game, and just like someone was that aware of our nerdy little industry to, and like Trent Reznor, becoming like a musician for Quake because they would play Doom all the time on the bus, and just like people are fans of our stuff, like we're just like games doing a bunch of movie references and, I did stuff from novels I've read and so on like that, and it's kind of cool to see it coming the other way, and like movies being made that aren't just bad movies, but they're actually some cool movies made from games now, and TV shows and so on. So
Some bad as well made.
Yeah, there's a number of bad ones, but there's Last of Us and things like
Most
that.
of them good because they have good foundation to build.
Yeah, I mean, and sadly the Doom ones are like okay, that I don't think they were really made from the stuff of Doom, and they did okay with the budgets they had and having to use the script that they had or something. But I think someone needs another take on Doom that really gets at the heart of it, and not just a chainsaw scene from first person or something.
Bruce Campbell, we're calling to you again. I mean, come on, you're the one.
I think makes it happen, Brucey.
And no, there will be movie without Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Okay. 9.
9.
9
At least 9. 3. Okay.
Three.
Wow.
Okay, the question about new technologies. You get to work all the time with something new, and could you tell, with your experience, which is 10 years more than mine, how often you have to learn new stuff and new technologies? Like, do you have ever a moment when you say, "Oh, I know enough," and you just work?
Well, I being one of the co-founders of id, we were always pursuing the hottest tech and like what could we make games cooler and cooler and cooler with, and so like I kind of got that addiction in a way, and so I was in a mobile phone game company like 6 months before the iPhone came out, and I made a VR game in 1993, and so I was just at a VR AR company, and so I'm a fan of learning, like games. I believe Raph Koster said games are just learning.
Yeah.
You just have to learn rules, how to apply them, and you feel great that you've learned how to apply the rules, and then you need new rules to make the game seem interesting and so on. And that's true for me in the industry. It's really boring if it's like, I just learned this one program and now I'm just going to use it for the next 25 years, or something like. No offense to COBOL programmers, they're great, and it's still
Atari
around.
Fan Club.
But it's great to keep up and learn new things, because then you're able to take the metaphors and the new metaphors in this new medium and kind of combine them into new ways that other people may not be able to. Like take what you've learned and apply it to this new interesting form of media to create in. Yeah.
And it's always nice to work with Commodore as well, a little bit.
Yeah.
As a basic of education.
Actually, a little birdie told me about this VR project back in the 90s, and I was actually very, very curious to ask you about it. What was it? How did you make it even?
Oh, the 1993 one?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Just people now think that there was no VR until the recent goggles.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. Okay, I believe this guy, Andrew Prell, came, and they had alternate reality systems or something like that. It's in, I have a slide in one of the talks I'm doing. But basically they said hey, that Wolfenstein game's really cool. If we could do a VR version of that, and it's VR. Oh yeah, I hear that's a new technology they're starting to develop. So we did it for this thing, and basically it's an arcade machine, and a VR headset lowers onto your face, over your face, and it's got two really bad Game Gear. I don't know what Game Boy Advance screens right up to your eyes, so it's really fuzzy. And then you control Wolfenstein with a joystick, which is the worst way to control voice. So it's this fuzzy, so I had to widen all the hallways so you could sort of squint and see where you're going and stuff. But it was fun to try, something new, and it's a new technology, and it was all on their dime and stuff, and they thought they could have something interesting. So being having the chance to talk in a new language is amazing. So it's not defined yet. VR, there weren't rules yet. There wasn't push teleport, or there wasn't even a controller for that kind of thing. There's in a new place that I got to design the fundamentals of what a first-person shooter is. Who gets to do that? Doom was our 5th first-person shooter, if you depending on what rules you set or where you draw the boundaries. So we did Hover Tank, and then we did Catacomb 3D, and then we did Wolfenstein, and then we did Spirit Destiny, and then we did Doom. And each one we learned a little bit about how to make that better. But designing the first set of first-person shooter weapons, that was cool. Making the first-person shooter level, that was really cool. Like it's amazing to talk. Like if you don't go out and seek new media or seek new ways to express, you're not going to get that like new frontier kind of experience. Like it's sort of like the Wild West. It's just like, well, we just went over here and there's nobody there. Let's try to survive here.
Yes.
And then you could sort of like do your own thing, and learn what that could be. It's exciting
Some
stuff.
things catch on, but some, remember there were this video games with videotapes, like on television, like you had to have a video player to play these games. Remember, like interactive something like
Oh
that.
yeah, like the special interactive.
And there were some people who actually persuaded to invest in it because they thought it would be the
This
future.
is the future.
Yes, and like everyone thought it would be a fit, but it just didn't catch on. Like for
Yeah,
some-
I mean, it's sometimes they have the idea,
Yeah.
but the medium isn't mature enough to handle it.
yeah. Well, no, now it comes back a little by little.
Yeah.
So,
Oh. Dun, dun,
okay,
dun.
let's do this first.
All right.
11.
11. Dun, dun, dun.
12.
12. Wow.
But
Too close.
little
Missed it by that much.
a little margin, yes, by the hair of the back. Yep.
Yeah.
Tom, what, from your point of view, like there are a lot of talk now about AI, and some people think, well, of course, a lot of people perceive AI differently now because it's like a brand now. In game dev, we always had AI for NPCs and everything. We perceived it differently, like from how it's perceived now by the majority of people. But how do you see this new tool set that it gets so promoted now? How do you use it in your everyday life? Do you see it as harmful or useful to the industry? Could you calm down or just encourage to work with them and use it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of complex, like, things to think about in AI AI is great. I mean, for the longest time, game AI was just like, how do monsters move? So it's not like a big deal. But now AI has taken on the connotation of being representative of computers thinking. And now we have large language models, and they're really interesting. I mean, I'll use chat to like do research for me. That's predictable research that doesn't like try to come to a conclusion, because like if you talk to a large language model, it'll try to do something performative that looks like the correct answer, but not necessarily is the correct answer. So you can't trust it entirely. But hey, what are the cool things to do when you're visiting Lithuania? Here's a whole bunch of cool things, that kind of stuff. Or, make up, 100 different crazy combinations of, these few things. That's great at. And I think where AI should be used more ethically is it shouldn't steal artists' work. I think that's not cool. And that's just, theft essentially, and people should be way more cool about that, and pay people for the work. But that said, I'm a photographer, I'm a partner's photographer, and we use generative AI film to like, hey, there's a guy staying in there and I just want a cool picture of this castle. So, and then, it's gone. So like, that's useful, right? Yeah. So like, I think it's just a tool, and we shouldn't like just rail against, new tools, but we should, make sure that they, don't just, aren't just engines of theft. But in all other uses, they're really cool. And be careful that, hopefully we develop more efficient ways to make them think, so they're not like, depleting water supplies and so on, as they said. But I mean, Google itself is depleting probably more water supplies
Yeah.
just from their search engine, you know, than that
Yeah.
is.
Do you think it will affect people's creativity as a whole in the future, in the long run?
Yeah, I think if you just rely on it to create for you, that's not what it's
Yeah.
really good for. You're just going to get like anagrams of things people already made. And like you're not going to get something just shocking and new. You know, you're not going to get this great new masterwork.
Or style, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like that. It's not going to do anything really surprising for you. So like the act of creation is connecting things that may not have been connected before. So like it can take a whole lot of things in, but it's just going to kind of re-scramble them. Whereas like at least up until now, humans are the only things that can generate something just surprising. Because I think it's just because, yes, we get so much input like it does, but we just like have an engine inside us that connects things in interesting ways and in surprising ways. And certain times of the day, like I call it drift time, where your mind just wanders, and that allows sort of a ruleless sort of safe space for ideas to just bump into each other, and that shouldn't bump into each other, and that's where like really cool and interesting ideas come from, you know?
At one point, photography, like which you mentioned also, was regarded as something which kills art.
Yeah,
And it was also hated and...
Yeah, it was hated, yeah, photography. So the pictorialists actually took photos that looked like paintings to convince people like, yeah, this can be art too. It's not just copying real life and cheating, you know. Like.
Yeah, and it's changed art. The functions of art changed after photography appeared.
Yeah.
It lost the function of reflecting reality because this pure function, it was taken by technology, so it could actually expand and
Right,
evolve.
do interesting things.
And more things could be called art after that.
Yeah, but I also think like what AI is going to be changing in the next, say, 10 years. Like Carmack is working on like a real thinking approach, like really understanding like, you know, how to play an Atari game from scratch, essentially. That's not using just like a big brute force method, and it's actually, you know, it hopefully will be the real way that like digital minds start thinking for real, and then it'll be a really interesting time because they're not going to stop at human level intelligence.
Yeah.
They're like, you know, 1 week later they'll be like 1 billion times smarter than us.
They never will stop. And the one thing which they're not as moral as humans. They lie. I mean, come on. You ask them like, I need so many quotes, and they just invent. They lie. They persist. So it's not a very reliable source. They don't have a morality of a human being. So it always would be monitored by human being.
Yeah, and I saw like somebody talking that should digital intelligences, you know, kind of get into just normal life, they'll probably be like C-3PO because they'll have to be built in with kind of like being afraid of things and being, you know, not sure of themselves and so on too. It's sort of inculcating a lack of, you know, aggression and you know, harm into their very
Protocols,
being.
yeah, because for now the border for AI between lie and creative process is very shallow. They don't see that.
It's just simulating
Yeah.
what a human answer would look like.
Yes.
And it doesn't really understand anything about what it's really saying, and you can kind of train them to have, you know, more context and sort of have like a database of things they know.
And remembering it all is also a big
RAG
problem,
and stuff.
yes.
But
So one of the last questions,
Yep.
and I won some twice in a row, so I'll give the last.
oh,
Yeah.
the final question
Well,
is
The final question that I probably should have asked you from the beginning, well, back to the origins, what made you make the decision to create games? What made you fall in love with the creative process? What can you, I don't know, say to us young developers that are just starting out? Like, what can we do?
Yeah, I think like first off, I was in a home environment where my parents were extremely supportive of whatever I would do. Like they just wanted to see me love something. Like my dad had found mechanical engineering and he just loved that and he really lived that and just, got to make seats for race cars and stuff like that. And it was really cool. And my mom was a journalist and she became sort of like the funny journalist in the Milwaukee newspaper and had a good time with that. And so they loved it. And she was really passionate about genealogy. And I saw their passion and I wanted to find my passion. So, and we were always make jokes with each other and we had a game closet. So there's all these crazy games like Lincoln Logs and Lego and Mousetrap and all these things. And there was a lot of 3D tavern puzzles, so there's lots of things that were just stimulating my mind in a game sense. And then I had this sort of impetus, as my mom was a writer, my dad typed what would, kind of creating and technology combined. And I tried fiction and poetry and I tried Super 8 films and stuff. And when we got the computer, that was like a medium I just dove into all summer. And I started making games and they were kind of as good as the ones that were being published. It was like, hey, I could do this, so I saw potential. And then importantly, I was in that safe environment. So every time I made a dumb little game that took, just a couple hours or something like that, my folks, really said, that looks great. Wow. Just that cool thing is happening on our computer. Wow. And so that was just, gave me sort of a dopamine hit. That was my Facebook or something that hey, I want to make another one of those. And so I kept doing that. But it's having that safe environment and finding the media or the way you want to communicate or express or give back to the world. You should either, the two ways you can find happiness are flow and giving. So if whatever gets you in a flow state, if that's baking, become a baker. That just time goes away and you just can't have to keep making these cool things. And then giving is what can you put, how can you give back to people? How can you take care of them? How can you, share your time or, give something that makes them happy? I thought it was just making silly little games, but people have come up to me and said Commander Keen was the only happy thing in my entire childhood. Thank you so much. And they were crying. And it was just wow, I didn't realize, that games can be that affecting. But in 2010, I had a stroke, and I couldn't really move this hand, and I had to train it to work again. And there's a game called Zen Bound on the iPad, and my friends got me an iPad, and so I played Zen Bound, and I could kind of slowly learn to get back my hand function again. I wrote them, and it's this, healed me out of, not being able to use my hand. And they were just oh my gosh, this is so touching. We've never had a fan letter like this. And it just, it's payback. It's just wow, thanks for, getting me through life by sharing what you share. So you may not get that directly, but if you're putting it out there, I mean, you're helping, just make something or help someone,
Yeah, that's rewarding. Yeah. And we have a little present for...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
What could it be? Oh, look, a Doombuster.
Oh my God!
Do you have a...
I have some pens, and we're going to sign this thing.
For Alicia.
Yeah.
Damn.
Where's the bag? Oh, it's in my jacket. There we go. And there's a Sharpie.
Would you
So
like
do you want
gold? Oh, silver. or
gold, silver, or
I'm
black?
a silver person.
Silver? All right. We already got silver. All right. We hope this works. This is exciting to watch me open packaging, isn't it?
Unboxing.
All right. Give me your pad. Thank you. All right. You're going to have to spell your name.
It's Alice.
What?
You can just write Alice.
As Alice in Wonderworld.
Oh, like Alice.
Yeah.
So you don't have any of those and then accents. And there we go.
Yay!
Hey, thank you. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much for the attention, and thanks to our guests. Yay! Talk to you
Hey,
later.
bye. So long. Don't forget to write.